without debugging. F5 means start without debugging. Okay, start without debugging. That is what we call as F5 or control F5. Okay, F5 means start with debugging and control F5 means start without debugging. See here, it will show you. Start debugging, start without debugging. Are you clear? Start debugging and start without debugging. So right now, if I say F5, this is start with debugging. Are you clear, guys? So what is the need of debugging? Debugging is a very, very important feature. Debugging is a very important feature of what all of you have to know to understand the logics. What is this? See, tomorrow, someone have written some logic here. Someone have written some logic and you're going through the logic. Someone have defined some logic and you're going through the logic. If at all you want to understand the logic, if at all you just want to understand the appropriate logic, you can understand the logic only by debugging the code. I repeat, you can understand that particular logic only by debugging the code. Debugging will explain you about the logics in detail. So if you want to understand the logic implemented by someone, you just require to go for debugging. So debugging is a very, very important feature what all of us require to know to just understand the logics implemented by people. Okay, fine. Now, coming below. Close the window, that's all. Close the window, yeah, on the corner you have a close button. Close that, that's all. You'll find a close button in the diagnosis window. Close that. Listen to me, guys. We have created an instance here now. We have created an instance. This is how you created an instance. Now look at this and tell me the code in the left-hand side and the code in the right-hand side. The code in the left-hand side and the code in the right-hand side. Which one is responsible for instance creation? The code in the left-hand side and the code in the right-hand side. Which one is responsible for instance creation? Right-hand side code or left-hand side code? Or you're asking how to run a program? F5. How to run a program? F5. If you say F5, it will run the program. That's all. Okay, right-hand side code. So the code you write in the left-hand side, basically is not at all important for executing the program. The code you write in the left-hand side is only to give a name to the instance here. Actually, the right-hand side code is only important. Then what about the left-hand side code? The left-hand side code is to give a name to that instance. The left-hand side code is only to give a name to the instance. If at all you want to give a name to the instance, we just use that code now. So left-hand side code is for giving a name to the instance and right-hand side code is for creating the instance. Is it clear, all of you? Yeah, we can use var if you want. Okay. Now have a look on this. Yeah, if at all your keyboard has a function key, you require to hold the function key. If at all your keyboards have function keys, you're required to hold the function key and just hit the buttons now, F9, F10 and all. Suppose the function key is there. If your keyboard doesn't have a function key, directly it works. If the keyboard has a function key, you're required to catch the function key and do it. Or otherwise, directly go to the debug menu and select start debugging. Guys, remember, this will create the instance now. Come on, guys. This will create the instance or not? Yeah, that will create an instance, but no name to the instance, guys. If there is no name, can I call a method now? Can I call a method? Yes, I can. I can call a method like this. Got it? Read this, guys. Read that. Are you guys clear? No, you cannot. It won't show you about memory or memory management. It won't show you. Okay, guys. So it's all about how manipulate the value while debug or change the code. You cannot. You cannot. Stop it, change and run. That's all. Okay. So it's all about how would you run a particular program. So actually, we have just been seen creating a method, calling a method, and all the appropriate things we just been understood here. Now, let us talk a little bit more on this methods, guys. Let us talk a little bit more on this particular methods, about these particular methods a bit more. Okay, guys, listen, all of you. Actually, I will talk a little bit more on the appropriate methods today. What I'm going to explain you is, listen, all of you. See, if at all you want to add a class, what are you doing? If at all you want to add a class, what are you doing? You are just opening the Solution Explorer, right click on this project, and there you are selecting an option, add a new item. It opens a window, and in the window opened, we are just going to choose a class. We are going to choose a class. In this window, you're just going to select the option, add class. Are you guys clear? We are selecting the option, add class. When you select the option, add class, automatically it will just add you a class. But guys, remember this one. Apart from the option add class, apart from this particular option add class, if you watch, in the left-hand side, you'll be finding an option called code. I mean, basically, you'll be finding so many items here, and here you'll be finding a code. This code basically relates to Nothing like categorizations, like all items will be coming, and this will be showing categorized item, web related items, ASP.NET Core related item. Like this, it show you related. In that, you'll be finding a code option. In the code option, observe, we have a class. We just have a class. Okay, now we just have a class, and you see, if you see, you'll be finding a code file option here. You'll be finding a code file option. What is this code file? Code file basically, what this code file is? Actually, code file guys, this is a blank .cs file. This is a blank .cs file. What is the mean by blank .cs file? Blank .cs file in the sense, it is just like writing code in the notepad. It is just like writing the code in a notepad. How do you write code in a notepad? Exactly same like writing the code in a notepad. The .cs file will come for you, and in that you can write your code. See here, code file, .cs file. Click on it. A blank file will come. See, just like writing code in a notepad only. Are you guys clear? Just like the code, like writing the notepad, that's all. A blank CS file will come, and you're required to write everything on your own from the top. Means importing of a namespace, okay, using like namespace name, everything you should write manually here. Everything you're required to write manually in this context now. Intelligence will come, but everything should be manually implemented. That's what I'm telling you. Intelligence will come here. No issue to the intelligence, but the code should be completely implemented manually in this context now. That's all. Complete code, manual coding has to be done. Are you clear? Okay. So we can use this code files and also write the code. We can use this code files also and write the code. No issues. Code files also can be used here for implementing the logics. Fine, guys. When do we use this code files? I'll show you. Next. Can I tell me? Can I write more than one class in a file? Can I write more than one class in a file? If you remember till now, what are we doing? We are writing one class in one file. We are writing one class in one file. But if the question arises, can I write more than one class in a file? Means, yes, guys, you can write. You can write more than one class in a file. How many? Any number? There is no limitation. There is no limitation for the number of classes you can write in a file. You can write any number of classes inside of a particular file. Understood? Suppose you want to write 10 classes, write them, no problems. But a small thing to remember. What is that? What is that? What is that is the small thing what you just require to remember here is yeah, the small thing what you just require to remember here is yeah, guys, what is that you just require to remember, you know? You can write any number of classes, no props, but main method can be present in one class only. You can write any number, no problem, but main method can be present in one class only. The main method can be present in one class only. Which class? That is your choice here. That is your choice. but you can write the main method only in one class. Are you guys clearer what I'm telling you? Okay. And what should be the name of the file? What should be the name of the file? What should be the name of the file, Miss? You can give any name, no problem. You can give any name, no problem. But in which class are you writing the main method? In which class are you writing the main method? It will be better if you give that name. In which class are you writing the main method? It will be better if you give that particular name. Are you guys clear? Okay. And that's not mandatory, guys. That is not going to be mandatory. That's your choice. That's completely going to be your choice where you're going to implement. But that is a general process here. That is a general process. Where you write, where you define the main method, there it is better if you write the code. Okay. Read these 2 points, guys. Read these 2 points. Sorry. Read these 2 points. Apu, coffee. Patrick, are you clear? Okay, fine. Now, one more important thing here, watcher. What is that? One more important thing here to remember. What is that, just watch. I want to write a method, guys. I want to write a method. What is the method? Basically, the method should take, I have a database table. I have a database table. And basically what has to happen is in the database table, I have a set of values. In the database table, I have a set of values. And the requirement is something like this. What? It has to load the values from the table. It has to load the values from the table. There is an employee table, guys. There's an employee table. There is an employee table containing a set of values in it: employee number, employee name, job, salary, like this. It has a set of values in it. It has a set of values in it. Now, what is my requirement is, I want to write a method. The method should take an employee number. The method should take an employee number and return the name of the employee. The method should take an employee number and return the name of the employee. Did you understand, guys? The method should take an employee number and return the name of the employee. If this is the case, what will be the signature of the method? What will be the signature of the method? Signature of the method. Signature of the method. Watch it, guys. What will be the signature of the method? Public string get name int id. Guys, this is the signature of the method. This is the signature of the method. Signature means that particular line, the first line what we generally write, we better call this as a signature of the method. Okay, so if you just observe this, one, if you see there, public string get name int id. Means id is the input and the string is the result what we are acquiring from that. Okay, now guys, can you answer this question now? Can you write me the signature for a method which takes a number and returns the job of the employee? Come on guys, can you write me the signature for a method which takes the ID and returns the job of the employee? It has to take the ID and return the job of the employee. Come on, try guys. Write me the signature for the method. Public string get job int ID. Perfect. Another one here. Another. The method should take an ID and return the salary of the employee. The method should take the ID and return the salary of the employee. Public double get salary. Okay. I want another method here. The method should take the number and return the status. Status means it's a Boolean value, guys. True or false, active or inactive status, it will tell you. It has to return the status of the employee. Public bool get status. Perfect here. You understood how to define the signatures to the methods now? Okay. Now I have a requirement like it has to I want to write a method. The method which has to take the employee ID and return all the details of the employee. And return all the details of the employee. All the details in the sense name, job, salary, and status. Are you guys clear? It has to return all the details, name, job, salary, status, everything it has to return. Okay, so that's the requirement. It has to return me all the values. Now, if at all it has to return all the values, now the confusion comes now. Array, how can I return all the values now? Are you guys clear? How can it return all the values? Now, how to return all the values? So that will be a big doubt what we just done. Okay. So if at all it has to return all the values at a time, so what you do, see, basically, right now, you take string, double, Boolean, all these are predefined data types. Listen guys, string, double, Boolean, all these are predefined data types. Okay, these are all predefined data types. Now, you have an option of defining your own data types and consume them. You have an option of defining your own data types and consume them. For example, guys, watch this. I'm writing a class like this, class EMP. In this class, I'm going to declare public int ID, public string name and job, public double salary, public bool status. So guys, have a look. I'm defining a class now, and the class has 5 fields in it. The class is going to have 5 fields in it. There are 5 fields in the class. Are you guys clear? There are 5 fields in the appropriate class. And remember a point here, what you know, every class, if you understand, every class is a new data type. Every class is a new data type. In the introduction days, I said you, class is a user-defined type. Now, watch this. I'm writing a method like this. Public EMP get details int ID. Did you understand the signature of the method, guys? That is the signature of the method. So what is EMP? EMP is a new type. EMP is a new type now. Are you people clear? Okay. EMP is a new type. Watch it. Now, exactly what I'm trying to explain you, exactly what I'm trying to explain you is, look at this, guys. Look at this, all of you. Read this all these things. Read a minute, read this from here to here. Whatever name you want to give here. EMP is a name, that's all. Okay. Now look, if you look at the appropriate thing, now concentrate on the note. What is the note? The note is telling you, array, the return type of a method need not be a predefined type. The return type of a method need not be predefined types like int, float, char and all. You can also have user-defined return types now. You can also have user-defined return types. What do you mean by that? See, guys, here we defined EMP, and EMP is used as a return type. User-defined return type, that is. Are you clearer? That is basically a user-defined return type what we are using now. Okay, so user defined return types also can be used basically as the return types of your methods now. So EMP is completely a user defined type, and that can be used as a return type of my method. I hope you are clear. Watch it. I'll show you practically. Watch it. I'm taking a code file, guys. Okay, I'm taking a code file here. Santoshi, how many user defined types are there in C Sharp? How many user defined types are there in C Sharp? I already explained you. Guys, I'm taking a code file here. I'm taking a code file here. A code file is being used here. Okay. Now see, in a code file, code should be manual here. Everything you should write it using system. Next, namespace. What's your namespace? Your project name is your namespace. Remember, yeah, be careful, case sensitive. Your project name, see here showing you your project name, that is only your namespace. So when you type, it will show you IntelliSense, select from there. Okay. Now, here I'm going to write two classes. One class is EMP. In this, I'm writing public int ID, public string name, public double salary, and public bool status. Next, class user defined types. I'm defining my own class called user defined types, second class in my project. Okay. And here I'm going to write what? Public EMP get details int ID. So if ID is passed, it has to get me the data. Actually, right now, actually, this has to get me all the values from a database table here. It has to get me all these values from a database table. But as of now, today, we don't have a database table. As of now, today, we don't have a database table. We are not going to have any database table here. So because we are not going to have any database table in this particular context now, I wanted to, because we don't have any database tables now, I just simply wanted to write some values I will write on my own. But in the future, all these values will come from database. Okay, concentrate. Creating the instance of the class. Now inside the class, you have the attributes now. ID is equals to ID. Obj.name is equals to. Remember, guys, with this ID, it has to now connect to database and load the name. With this ID, it has to connect to the database and load the name. But what did I say? Array, I don't have database for the time being, so I'm giving some static values. I'm assigning the name as Raju. Obj.job is equals to something manager. Obj.salary is equals to some 50,000. And obj.status is equals to true. Okay, right now all the values are static values, guys, but we'll be getting these values dynamically in the future from the database. Finally, what I say? Return obj. Obj is which type? Obj is which type? Come on, guys. Obj is which type? EMP type. Perfect. Obj is which type? EMP type. And the return type of the method is EMP only, na? The return type of the method is EMP only, na? So we say return obj. See here? See, look here. The return type of the method is string, right? The return type of the method is string. Yes or not? Can we get to know the type of user defined type? Call it. Call it. Yeah, see, some questions say, don't ask these silly questions like this. Try first. Why don't you try? Why you ask me? You should try, and afterwards you should ask me. Everything, why you want spoon feeding, guys? Try. Is it getting or not? Can I use it or not? Try. If you're not able to use, you got an error, then you should come back and ask me, sir, I'm not able to try this. Can I use it or not? You don't give it try at all. Everything, why are you asking, guys? You need to do some hard work. Okay. See, this method, what is the return type of the method? String, right? So I declared a string and returned the string, na? Array, I declared a string and returned the string, right? Exactly here also, I declared an EMP and returned it now. Same only, the return type is EMP. So I created one employee and I returned it. Okay. Now see, static void main. Static void main. Now guys, have a look. Here, this method returns a string value, right? This method returns a string value. So when you're calling, what did you do? You declared a string variable and captured the result, right? You declared a string variable and captured the result, right or not? Same way here also. Same way here also. Just a minute. First create the instance of your class. First create the instance of the class and you call the method odt.getDetails. What is the return type of the method? The return type is EMP. See, EMP, OBJ or EMP, whatever name you give, no problem, is equals to get details of 1001. Did you guys catch me? See, here also you've done the same thing, only watch. Captured in a string. Here also you're doing it. But here the return type is not string, the return type is employee here. So we need to capture it as a EMP. Okay? Now tell me. Here this str this s2 contains one value in it. Array, this s2 contains one value in it, which you are printing, right? Come on guys, fast. The s2 contains one value in it, which you are printing, right? But now this E contains one value or five values in it. The E contains five values. Complex type. I already explained all these things to you. Simple types, complex types to you. Recollect yourself. Read the notes. When I explained you how to write a code, how to create objects and all, C program, C++ program on that day, I already said you. Int, float, byte, string, all these are called simple types. And this is a complex type. More than one value. Complex type. Okay. Now see how to print the values. Console.writeLine. E dot ID plus E dot name plus, because this is a complex type, I require to pick up each and every value and print it. Did you get me, guys? Because it is a complex type, you're required to pick each value and print it now. E dot salary plus E dot status and console dot read line. Oh, sorry, did not change the startup object. Go here. User defined types. Got it. So I said you right now this is static, guys. Static values. But what did I say? Later, When we learn database programming, these values will come from. These values will come from database. That will be dynamic then. Okay. So today my intention is to understand how to use a user-defined data type. That's all. Today my intention is to make you understand how to use user-defined return types. Guys, I explained you three things to you: code files, defining multiple classes, user-defined types. And you can read all these three. Right now, I have defined a class, putting all the three, and I shown you all the three features at a time to you. Watch it, read. You cannot run. You cannot run. You can run only one class at a time. Okay? Guys, fast. All these three things I have put for you under one single program and explained you right now. Okay, na? Fine, guys. Next. See. So now first I explained you, I clarified about the return types, guys. So how to use the return types to a method. I just been completely shown you return types of a method. And here I have shown you yesterday void type methods. Okay. And I shown you string type. Today I shown you user defined types. So everything clear with the return types now? Everything clear with this, guys? Void, predefined types, user defined types, everything I shown you. The next thing what we require to understand is about the parameter list. And already we learned here, parameters are used for making a method. Parameters are used for making a method. Dynamic, perfect. Parameters are used for making a method dynamic. Okay. Now, if you remember, basically we have just seen. Yeah, guys. Basically, if you just observe this, Okay. Oh, now you understand parameters of a method. If you just understand about the parameters of a method, parameters of a method, parameters of a particular method are um, basically how do you pass parameters to a method? This is the syntax to pass parameters, guys. This is the syntax to pass parameters to a method. Watch it carefully. This is the syntax. Now, if you observe the syntax, type var default value n refer out. So many optional things are there here. Array, so many optional things are there. What is mandatory? Type and var. See, yesterday for a method, today also, now also for a method, we have just passed int x. We passed the parameter int x. So where int is the type and x is the variable. And for that method, we also passed int ub. Array, for that method, you also passed int ub. Understood? Okay. Now, upper bound. So multiple parameters. So this n refers to n parameters. The n refers to n parameters. Can I define a parameter like this? 3 parameters, n parameters. Now still what we require to understand is refer out, params, and default value. Still 3 things we require to understand here. One is refer out. Second one is params. Third one is default value. Okay, let me explain all these things. Actually, parameters of a method, parameters of a method are divided into 3 categories. Parameters of a method divided into 3 categories. What are 3 categories? 1, input parameters. Output parameters. In-out parameters. Input parameters, output parameters, in-out parameters. So parameters of a method are divided into 3 types: input parameters, output parameters, and in-out parameters. What are input parameters? Input parameters are used for passing values into a method for execution. Input parameters are used for passing values into a method for execution. Yes, guys, they're used for passing values into a method for execution. Are you getting my point? Okay. So by default, every parameter is input parameter only. These will take values into the method for execution. Then what about output parameters? Output parameters are used for sending results out of a method after execution. Sending results out of a method after execution. Third one is in-out parameters. What is in-out parameter? In-out parameter means this is a combination of input and output. First, it will bring a value into the method and afterwards carry the result out of the method. See, this will bring a value into the method for execution. This will bring a value into the method for execution. This will carry the results out of the method after execution. This will carry the results out of the method after execution. And this one will do both. What is it? First, it will bring a value. Afterwards, it will carry the results. See, guys, in some restaurants, if you notice, the person who brings the food and delivers to you is one. You sit on the table and you order the food, and one person will come now and just serves the food for you. He brings all the plates. And you notice there will be another person, a cleaner, who comes and takes the empty plates inside, right? One person is bringing the food, another person is taking the plates inside. In some restaurants, you notice, it. There will not be a cleaner separately. The same person will bring the food and the same person will carry the plates again inside. Yes or not? Input means bringing the food here. Output means taking the empty plates here. In-out means the same person bringing the food and the same person taking the empty plates also. Now, by default, every parameter is an input parameter. By default, every parameter is an input parameter. Yes, guys, every parameter is an input parameter. And if you want to define a parameter as an output parameter, how do you define, output parameter? If you want to define a parameter as an in-out parameter, is how you define. Are you guys clear? Input parameter, output parameter, in-out parameter. X is a, come on guys, X is a input. Y is a output. Z is a in-out parameter. Okay. So first, we'll understand about output parameters, guys. First, we'll understand about output parameter. Okay. Watch. Output parameters.cs. I'm writing a class now. Okay. I want to write a method like this. Public int math int a comma int b int c is equals to a plus b return c. Are you clear with the code, guys? Okay, public. Now, can I write this? Can I write code like this? Public int d is equals to a into b and return d. Can I write like this? Some are telling no, some are telling yes. Why no? Why no? Shrikant, why no? Why, if it has two return statement, is it an error? If you have a second return statement, is it an error? No, it's not an error. It is not an error. Array, two return statements are not an error, guys. But you cannot write like this. Why? Because already you learned return is a jump statement. When return is a jump statement, when I say return C, control will jump out from here. This statement will never execute now. Unreachable error. Unreachable code detected. Unreachable code detected. Because control will jump out from here. Are you clear, guys? So what is the problem? You have a chance to return only one value. Am I right? You have a chance to return only one value. Am I right or not? To overcome this problem, we have an option. Watch, guys. Watch it, all of you. Int a comma int b comma out int c comma out int d. And here I am writing C is equals to A plus B and D is equals to A into B. Are you clear? Understood now? This is the advantage. This is the advantage of using the output parameters. So now see, I'm going to define a method. Now come on, let us see how to call it. How to call this method. All of you carefully observe. Guys, if a method returns one value, do you declare a variable to capture that value? If a method returns one value, do you declare a variable to capture that value? Yes, now? Now see, this method is going to give one value as a result, two values as a result. This method is going to give one value as a result, two values as a, and you're required to declare two variables to capture the results now. Am I right or not? Okay, watch guys, I'm declaring two variables to capture the results now. Okay, then I'll call the method obj dot math1. Guys, watch it. 100, comma, 25, comma, okay, out sum 1, out product 1. So the results, guys,